Your organization has launched an exciting new patient feedback reporting system. In this tutorial, you'll learn what to report and how to enter it into the system. Let's start with what to report. As patients provide feedback, you can help improve the quality of patient care by collecting and regularly reporting items such as compliments, complaints, grievances, and suggestions. Now, to ensure you have all of the required information at the time of file entry, let's get familiar with the content of a typical feedback form. A default multi-issue feedback form consists of the following 5 sections. Person affected. If a person was affected in the event, you type in key information about him or her, such as first name and last names, address, and MRN in this section. Communicated by. This section requires you to enter the details of the person who communicated the feedback to your organization. Often, it is the same as the person affected. Feedback details. You're typically required to provide some details about when the organization was notified about the event and how the feedback was received, for example, in person or by phone. Issues list. This section provides a grid where you can enter all issues communicated in a running list. This includes the classification of the feedback, relevant location information, and what each issue is about. And finally, you'll have an opportunity to add any relevant attachments such as x-rays, photos, letters in the last section. There may be some variations in your system and even additional sections. You're encouraged to familiarize yourself with the form structure. Typically, you'll find one icon that corresponds to the feedback form. If you're using feedback and risk, you'll find additional icons. If you're not sure which icon to use, type in a keyword in the Find a Form search field to narrow down the options. Then, click on the feedback icon to view the blank form. Here's a sample multi-issue feedback submission form. Here's the table of contents where each item is linked to a section on the form. Here's the progress bars to help you keep track of how much of the form you've completed and how far you've left to go. Here's where you'll find the questions or fields. Pay close attention to the ones with the green asterisk, as you'll need to complete those mandatory fields to submit the file. Also, hovering over a form field caption will display a tooltip that provides more information about the field. And here's the Submit button that you can click once you've finished filling out the form. Do you remember the groups of information that you need to report in a typical form? Great! Let's look at a sample scenario and then enter it in this form. John is an elderly patient who has been under your care for the last 3 days, staying in location 3A South. He's very upset about the quality of food, but really appreciates the care you have been giving him. He'd like it if you can see that the hospital receives his feedback. Let's plug in the information. Using the scenario, I'm going to make the appropriate selections. In a real-life scenario, you will enter as much of the information as you can on the form. But for training purposes, I will fill in the mandatory fields that are required in order to submit this form. First, in the Person Affected section, the Communicated By section is where you enter who the issue was communicated by. If the person that was affected by the issue is the same person who was communicating the issue, you can click the Copy Person Affected link to autofill the person's details. If not, enter the communicator's details. In the Feedback Details section, I'm going to enter some of the specific details, such as the date of the notification. I can select the date by clicking the Date Picker button and selecting the appropriate day. I'm going to go ahead and select the submitting site, service area, and department. The Constraint Clear button, located here, allows you to clear out multiple field selections at one time. For example, If I realized I selected the incorrect site, I can click on the Constraint Clear button that also clears all related fields, such as the service area and department fields. This allows you to quickly re-enter the correct combination of information. Click Add or Modify to select a desired outcome for the issue. Recall that the issues list contains a grid. In this scenario, there were 2 issues reported: a complaint about the food and a compliment about the nurse. Let me show you how to enter those. To add the first issue, click here. Enter the information in the fields, such as the classification of the complaint, the date, and a description. You'll notice that there is another grid to indicate what the issue is about. The data entry is the same here. Enter the information in the fields, such as what the issue is about, the site, service area department, and location. If the site of the complaint is the same as the submitting location, you can click on the Copy Submitting Location link to auto-populate the location-related fields. Specify the feedback category by clicking on Add. Select the appropriate categories and click OK. Scroll down to select the issue status and resolution date and click OK. I'm going to quickly add the information required for the compliment as well, including the classification, date, description, and what the issue was about. I'm going to follow the same steps as when I entered the previous issue. And there you have it. We've just entered a complaint and a compliment. In the attachment section, you can attach any files related to the event. In this case, we will add a compliment note that John Fort has written about the care he has received. Click Add and browse for the file. Select a category for the attachment and enter a brief description. Click OK. When you're done, click Submit. It's that easy. And there you have it. You have just learned how to submit a feedback file. For more information about the icon wall or to learn about other features on the submission form, check out the user guide by clicking on the Help link. Be sure to log out of the system. And there you have it. You've just learned how to submit a file.